Oh, hello. Late Night with Chefs. Vlad Breinstov and Douglas Cox.
Here we are.
Season 2. Back at it again. We had a little hiatus, whatever you want to say, tomato. We're back at it. We're doing things a little bit different, and we love it. So, Doug, would you like to inform all our viewers what we're doing different nowadays?
I most definitely would. Hello, everybody. It is such a joy to be back on the Late Night with Chefs show. As your host, Doug, and co host, Vlad, we are just really happy to kind of be back in front of you guys, bringing you some new stuff this season. So, we are going to be going over industry topics. Basically, all those things sort of inside, maybe well known, maybe not so well known, just industry topics that you guys want to know more about. We're going to be giving our opinions on it. We're also going to be giving you guys some research on the topics as well. And then just kind of like wanting to know how you guys feel about this new direction that we're taking it, this informative direction. So, without further ado, our first industry topic of the new season, um, virtual
Ew.
drum roll. We are going to be talking about staff meal. So, the who, what, when, where, and why of staff meal. How did
Staff
it come
meal,
about?
comida, family meal, whatever you guys call it.
AKA, exactly. So everyone is probably very familiar with staff meal if you work in the industry. If you do not work in the industry, here is a very basic definition. So a family meal or staff meal is a group meal that a restaurant serves its staff outside of peak business hours. Restaurant provides the meal free of charge, unless you live in New York, as a perk of employment. Typically, the meal is served to the entire staff at once, with all staff being treated equally like a family. The restaurant's own chef prepares the meal, often using leftovers or unused ingredients. A chef may also use the family meal to experiment with new recipes. So, very basic terminology of what staff meal is. Thank you, Wikipedia, for that. Uh, kind of expand on that for a little bit, if you will, Vlad. What is staff meal to you?
Yeah, staff meal. So, like one of my great mentors, Dan Peretta, said, staff meal has to be immaculate and always on point because sometimes that's the only meal industry, food and beverage industry people will have that entire day. So like that's their one and done for the day. So like for one, that's huge. And then that puts the magnitude and weight of why we have staff meal and why it's so important and why you should, put so much thought and care into that. But I love that Doug introduced the part of, using stuff that's, on its third day or it's not going to make it, another day, but you can eat it today and it tastes delicious and it's amazing, but you can't serve it to the guests because it's just not on that standard for that restaurant. And sometimes it is still for the standard, but why not? Because you already brought in more stuff in house. So I mean, I was introduced first time to staff meal or family meal or comida um, in culinary school. We had all the scraps and bits, and then after we'd serve the diners and stuff, we'd make a smorgasbord sandwich of just mishmash between two slices of bread, whatever you could put in there.
And I think that's like the epitome of staff meal. Like when you think about what is staff meal, it's literally that. It's like taking nothing and coming up with something. And I think like being able to share your talents and everything else is like the biggest reward of staff meal. I think we've all been there when we know someone didn't put forth any effort to what they just did, and it's like, okay, cool. Like it's definitely a way to show camaraderie and like a way to show respect for your fellow cook.
Right. I mean, you shouldn't be throwing like, leftover figs and green beans together and making like, disgusting as something out of it, but still you should be respecting the ingredients and like it should all taste good anyways, because it's already like mise en place and it's ready to go. So you just really have to reheat stuff and but then I also saw like the different world of it where you get a budget and you can order certain things and kind of really plan it out, and each person kind of is either has a protein, a starch, or a beverage or something like that, and then that gets really unique, and then that has like that friendly camaraderie of like competition of who
Well,
can make the best staff meal.
I love that you hinted at that because I think that's another important thing of family meal is that typically it's never just one person, right? Like how awful is it when you have to make all of staff meal by yourself? Like no, like the Garmo guy should pick up the salad, maybe Entremet picks up the veg, your saucier picks up the protein. Everybody has a part in
Which makes sense
staff
because
meal.
you're working with those ingredients, so you should be the guard of those ingredients.
So the chef doesn't come pull a little swiperoo on your mise en place off your station.
Yeah, and honestly, I always look forward to the salads. I always try to eat healthy because a lot of the times the guys would throw together like grilled cheese sandwiches or taco boards, and
Yep.
you wanna stay slim while you're on the line, so you don't feel heavy. You gotta stay light on the toes like a boxer.
Exactly, exactly. Always ready. So, next we're going to talk about where did staff meal originate? So, this is from the michelinguide.com. We have a little extra here. As long as there have been restaurants, there has been a need for family meal or staff meal, as some call it. It wasn't until 1999 when Chef Thomas Keller devoted a section to staff meal in his seminal French Laundry cookbook that the concept became a part of the dining public's vocabulary. So, family meal and staff meal has been happening for ages. I
There's
couldn't
different
really
levels.
find,
There's different levels
yeah,
of staff meal, right? Because like there's kitchen snacks, and that's a whole different category and a whole different episode that we could just talk about for hours about
right,
kitchen
exactly.
kitchen snacks and the acceptability and not acceptability of them. And then there's staff meal, which is like a designated time and a place and a way and an etiquette to do it, which I think is what Thomas Keller really defined and put like in parameters of how he would do it.
Most definitely. And I think, you're 100% right. The level to which staff meal is taken, is it a very serious ordeal where everybody sits down and has a plate, or is it those kind of like everyone's huddled around the trash can together at a microsecond to taste
Yo,
whatever
you gotta try
concoction.
this. I just put this
Yes,
and this and this together.
exactly. So, moving forward, why does it exist? Some might define family meal by its utility, a meal provided by management to keep employees full of energy for hours of work ahead. Others might invoke romantic imagery of breaking bread and fortifying the bonds between a brigade. Regardless of its history and symbolism, the resounding truth is that family meal is as diverse as the restaurants that serve it. From crafty utilizing leftovers to placing special orders for ingredients, from giving prep cooks a chance to sharpen their skills to letting dishwashers or servers show off a special hometown dish, there is no other way to do it. And that is from the MichelinGuide.com. I think that is a beautiful, elegant explanation of
I love that because
why.
they hit like all the seasons of the restaurant industry, right? Because like letting for a second there you were like the servers and dishwashers bring in like or like show off their own meal, and I was like, yeah, maybe like not every day and day, but like on a Thanksgiving or something like that, we
Yep.
had one of the servers bring like this snickerdoodle pie mishmash thing, and it was
Oh,
amazing. And we were all like, "Damn, bro, this shit's fire!" Like, what's the recipe? And he's like, "Yo, it's like Cool Whip, Snickers, break this shit up, put it in the freezer, put some more Cool Whip." Yeah, just like this whole thing of like, we're like, "All right, yeah, that's dope. This tastes really good." So like for sure, like
yeah.
it is a wide range because like there's different days and occasion in a restaurant where that's what happened, and other occasions where it's like, all right, we have a busy service or we have a buyout, so we're gonna do this and this.
Yeah, exactly. And, that's kind of the thing about staff meals. It always, you can tell those restaurants where it's a last minute thought and where it's, a staple of the day to day operation. And I think that those places where it's kind of given that staple, that this is not going to change. You can definitely feel the vibe and the chemistry and the synergy that takes place in those restaurants.
So Monday's a meeting day, so that's always a behind day. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I was in a meeting. I just threw the shit the guy. Like,
Yep.
my bad, guys. Like, I got you tomorrow, Taco Tuesday. We got you.
Exactly.
Got you covered. Taco
Exactly.
Tuesdays. I think that sealed it. I think the industry made Taco Tuesday a thing. I don't think Taco Tuesday was a thing until the industry was like, "Yo, we're eating tacos."
On Tuesdays for staff, and then it turned into,
I think that's what it is, dude.
hey, I'd
Makes
buy it.
sense.
So, kind of moving right along, talking about staff meal. When we come back from our break, we're going to kind of get into our experiences with staff meal. What was our best staff meals? What were our worst staff meals? Have you ever created a staff meal where you're like, oh, I do I serve this? Do I just make it? Do I scrap it? So we're gonna get back into staff meal shortly after this commercial break. Thank you guys for listening, and we will catch up with you shortly.
Ayo, and we back.
All right. Well, we are back. We are talking about staff meal, the origins of staff meal, what staff meal kind of means to us as chefs and also as eaters of many a staff meal at some very nice restaurants. So, Vlad, tell me a little bit about one of your best staff meal experiences, whether it's something you ate, something you cooked.
So we'll call this the best, worst, and disaster segment. Best staff meal, I would say, is definitely during the holidays. So, like, Thanksgiving or the New
uh,
Year's parties or the Christmas parties, where the budget is like, all right, we'll bring in that prime beef. We'll bring in, like a brisket. We'll bring in, some turkeys and stuff like that, and we'll give you guys a couple of days to fuck around and use up all the shit you guys got in samples in the storage room that needs to be cleaned out. So that's always a fun best meal comida. I would say Thanksgiving, because we definitely go all out in all the restaurants I've worked at.
I've had many a good
I
staff
don't know. I don't know
Thanksgiving.
how Virginia was Thanksgiving staff meal, but when we do it, we throw down.
Yes. For those of you that don't know, Vlad is referring to our last Thanksgiving of 2021. We actually spent feeding Afghan refugees in a small town base in Virginia. So quite a humbling experience. But the
Vlad didn't make it to
staff meal for
Thanksgiving.
us was definitely we didn't have turkey. We didn't have turkey, but
Would you have
it's
chicken,
okay.
sliced chicken with gravy?
I think it was pizza, like pizza, chicken tenders, jalapeno
Ah,
poppers. It's a lot of fried food that day, if I remember correctly. But
got it. Just
um,
trash the oil.
so Thanksgiving staff meals always A1. What is a bad staff meal experience that you've had? What makes a bad staff meal experience?
Bad staff meal, definitely. When something is like definitely not there, like it was like
Like it's late?
like
Yes.
like it's a day ago, and you're like, yo, this shouldn't be here. The other one is like, for me, the super heavy ones, like where you just like, it's a pot of just like cheese sauce and everything makes
Pot roast and mashed potatoes for staff meal is a no
just
go.
when it's too heavy, then you're just like, everybody's just groggy, kitchen's barely moving, like, the engine Kent is not cranking.
Yeah.
And
I've been there.
disaster ones is when you burn that shit, you leave it in the oven for too long. Had that happen to me. You make just inedible, like either undercook and overcook stuff. That's happened to me many, many times. And I've eaten shit for it, because people will tell you, line cooks will tell you, they don't care, dude. They're savages.
No,
They're
yeah, they're very
cranky. They
honest.
just came, they barely slept a couple hours, and they're like, dude, really? You're going to feed me this shit? Like, the fuck you mean?
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, like, I've had people like, the worst is when somebody goes and orders like pizza behind your back. because your staff meal was that shitty, and you're like, wow.
But
And they
doesn't
don't
even
even give
tell
you a
you.
slice. They don't even give you a slice.
Well, no, because you're the reason they have to pay for the pizza. So
For real. But like front of the house, savages when it comes to staff meal. They'll tell you like they won't tell you directly, but there'll be rumors like you'll
you'll
hear
hear.
about it at the bar. That's when you'll hear about it.
I definitely have had my fair share of staff meal experiences. Some of the best were when everyone was just kind of like enjoying the food together at the same time. Like everyone's just kind of like eating and like sitting down and just, there in that moment. I had a lot of staff meals are spent, still doing work, or everyone's kind of like on their phones. There's other things going on instead of really truly just like sitting and enjoying each other's company. So
Right,
it's
you
just
got
definitely.
your pint deli full of substance that you're just slowly macking on.
Yeah, exactly. Or, you're having to peel fava beans during staff meal, or, something to the effect of writing labels. You're doing work things during downtime. And then some of the worst staff meal experiences that I've had is definitely some of the same, where you like pull something out of the oven too early and you're like, oh, that's not cooked. And then you come up 10, 15 minutes late. That's always the worst. You feel so bad because so many people are counting on you. And I
So
think.
there's this chef I recently got to work with. He does this famous technique where he par bakes his chicken in the oven and then fries it crispy in the fryer. And I think everybody was pretty impressed by that.
Yeah, just like chicken tenders, or like what kind
Chicken
of
thighs with skin
thighs?
on.
Nice.
You
That
do a
sounds
thigh and
good.
a breast. Yeah.
Nice.
It's like fried chicken, but not so bready.
Yeah. I'll have to try that. I like that.
It's good. And it saves you time for staff meal.
Yeah, yeah. And chicken thighs are like chicken, leg quarters are pretty much
Yeah,
twice a
leg
week
quarters
staff
would be
meal.
really good. Yeah.
Everyone buys those for staff.
You're
Yeah.
lucky if you get chicken leg quarters, getting chicken tenders.
So, kind of moving on about staff meal and kind of what family meal means. You know, have you been in kitchens where staff meal isn't a thing? Have you been in kitchens that kind of treat it as you know, a luxury instead of a
Yeah, so
necessity?
so I was just recently in two worlds. So one where I heard a conversation where staff meal is something that you get like 50% off in a corporate restaurant, like let's say you're working at a cheesecake factory or something like that, which we're not shaming, but they don't have something like let's say per se staff meal. They have something where you can just order whatever you want on the menu, 50% off.
Right,
You
right.
take it, eat it, and go.
The logistics of a staff that size all
It's
sitting down at
it's so
once.
corporate that there's not really that family essence.
Right.
And then I was just at a tennis tournament for 2 weeks, so like we were all like super close as family. So like people would just come up and be like, I'm hungry, make me this, yada 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 yada. And you're on the line during work because you're working doubles back to back for 16 days. So like you just make it for them and it's just what it is. But
Yeah.
nobody has like a set sit up. There's still a pre-shift, but there's no staff meal time,
Yeah. Yeah.
and everybody takes their little breaks. It's a mishmash. So there's definitely a different vibe when everybody sits down and everybody puts their best foot forward for that staff meal, and having that type of like family type of environment where you're eating and it's nutritious and like your heads down type of like progressive thinking going forward type of workers where you're like trying to push the boundaries to where like you're really just in it, you're still doing it for the career, but it's less progressive driven and it's more like this is just your day to day type of thing. And that's when you see it like where restaurants will have that like 50% off or just like get your meal and go type of thing. Eat if you're
Yeah.
hungry.
Yeah. And I think that's interesting.
I wonder how staff meal is at McDonald's. Like, I'd go crazy with kitchen snacks. I'd be making like all type of McDonald's kitchen hack menu
So
meals. But
I'll tell you from my experience, it's very very strict on what can and can't have, and usually it's up to the franchisee kind of how to handle that. From my experience, it's 50% off one menu item, but there's not really any ability to customize or play with because variances are very, very strict at McDonald's locations. So if you throw in an extra chicken patty here or there on a burger, someone's gonna know about it. So yeah, I think staff meal, family meal is hopefully a thing that people continue to make the time for. I know it's difficult. I know a lot of restaurateurs out there and chefs out there. It's sometimes seen as another thing to get on the to-do list, but I think there's a lot of great benefits and a lot of awesome chemistry and camaraderie that's built around having a family meal, a staff meal every day.
But honestly, 60-50% of the time, it really just needs to be nutritious and filling, like
Definitely.
steamed rice, or like blend a bunch of cilantro, garlic, and like a bunch of seasoning, salt, throw a little MSG, and steam some rice, and call it a day with like some chicken, and it's great. But like, I go to the grocery store nowadays, and that shit scares the shit out of me because like prices are just insane for chicken. For like, I didn't even eat chicken. Now like all I can afford is chicken because it's so expensive.
Yep,
So that's
definitely.
crazy. So I wonder like what staff meal is looking like now. But even Massimo had the book Bread is Gold, which was like utilizing all these recipes, all these chefs in all these different places that serve family meal, and utilizing all these recipes and showcasing them, which I thought is really cool. And I think in terms of R&D, it's a great way to repurpose, and that's what all the restaurants are trying to do right now, is repurpose, reuse,
Exactly.
and recycle. So it's in our DNA.
That it is. Well, I just want to say, if you guys are out there questioning, what staff meal is, if you should continue staff meal, how to make the best staff meal. Hopefully, you guys have found something useful here. We are going to take a quick word from our sponsor, and then we will be right back with you guys. Thank you so much for listening so far, and we can't wait to hear your guys' comments on what staff meal means to you.
Ayo! And we back.
Hello, hello, everybody. As we continue to kind of wrap up our discussion today on staff meal, we just wanted to take a second to kind of talk about our personal favorites of staff meal, what we have cooked for our staff, and maybe some tips or tricks. Vlad shared an amazing idea on some chicken thighs earlier that I will definitely have to be putting into my repertoire.
Bang, bang.
But, for me, my favorite staff meals was always chilaquiles. It was always super simple, super go-to, very easy to kind of put together. If you guys have never had chilaquiles before, it is, for lack of better words, nacho lasagna. You
No,
have
I have chili gilly nightmares, bro, from Sunday brunch. Sunday brunch comida. So everything that didn't sell on
Yep,
Sunday brunch, we would eat for Sunday staff meal, and then go
there
to
you go.
work. And chili killies, man.
There you
Something
go.
about fried tortillas, tomatillo sauce, and good cheese, and some whatever you use, chicken or
Yeah.
duck or whatever. It's fucking
Chicken, duck, eggs, black beans I've put in there. Basically you're taking fried tortillas as your pasta sheets.
Mexican cassoulet.
It's the best. It's the best. So Vlad, what is one of your favorite things to cook for family meal?
I already said like I love doing like a big cut, like a primal or subprimal cut, like
Oh,
a
like a
whole
big brisket or
like a whole brisket, or like a whole rack of whether it's pork or lamb, or like a lamb leg is awesome. I think
nice.
lamb legs are definitely underutilized, so I'm definitely gonna say lamb legs is my go-to staff meal. That's easy to put together, like pita bread, hummus, get some salad, lamb leg. Share
Oh,
that
Greek
feast.
salad, some fucking Kalamata olives, some
Dude, there
feta,
you
some
go.
red onion, pepperoncinis.
And
Oh,
we go with the Castanovella olives.
oh, all right. I love it. I love it. Well, we want to hear from you guys. Please let us know what your favorite staff meals to make are, or if you guys have any questions about staff meal. Also, let us know in the comments how you like these industry topics. It's kind of a different style to our interviews that we did with guest chefs. We just kind of want to bring people on here and there and more do industry topics where we're bringing you guys some relevant information on the things that you want to know. If you would like to suggest an industry topic to us, you can email us at latenightwithchefs@gmail.com or hit us up on the Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We're there. We're everywhere.
Or just,
So
leave a comment below.
there you
Do your
go.
thing. What's
There
your
you go.
favorite staff meal to cook up? What you cooking up? They letting you cook staff meal out there?
Oh, out here where I am in per se
Yeah.
right now? No, that is a top secret mission, strictly reserved for the AM Sioux.
Is there per se 11 secret herbs and spices?
No, there's definitely a lot of secret herbs and spices, but a lot of our staff meals are actually really high quality, we're buying the best of the best ingredients. And so, naturally the trim on those when you're manicuring and perfecting them in such a way as we are,
Yeah, the
uh
Wagyu burrito trim.
uh I think the best staff meal I've had so far was on a Sunday. The chef made brunch and they did a Wagyu potato hash with like scrambled eggs, but like Gordon Ramsay style, like scrambled eggs with like chives and they're still soft, not dry at all. And like with the Wagyu potato hash with like white onions, it's exactly what I needed on a Sunday
They
at
shave
noon.
some truffles on there for you.
No, there's no truffleage, but we get close. A lot of like halibut curries have been really really tasty.
That's smart. I actually have I've never heard of that, but I've
Oh
never
yeah,
had that or
a
heard of
lot of
that.
fish
But that's smart.
curries, a lot of halibut fish curries. Like
Sounds
all the
good.
halibut scraps, turn it into like a curry with some coconut milk, lemongrass. Mm.
Do you guys do that halibut with the potato scales?
Yeah, was one of the dishes,
Do you
but
use egg whites in there?
yeah, it's 70. What is it? It's a ratio between egg whites and cornstarch.
Is it egg white powder and cornstarch powder?
No, straight up egg whites.
Oh, and
Mix it.
cornstarch
Yeah, egg
to
whites and
make it stick on
cornstarch.
there.
Yep. And then you kind of like design the little scales, cut it out, punch it out.
Yeah, yeah. Been there.
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding. I haven't been there, but done
So
that similar.
that is our topic of staff meal. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, listening
Staff
to
meal.
Late Night with Chefs. I am your host, Doug Cox.
And I'm Vlad Bronsted. I'm moving away from Truffle Boy. Truffle Boy. I'm just like, I'm 26 now.
Exactly. You're a man now. It's Vlad.
It's just Vlad Bronsted, you know. And yeah, we're super excited to see. We want to hear in the comments below your best, worst, and your disaster staff meal that you've had. Because I've heard some, horror stories about staff meal not going so well, and the next day for the staff not coming in. So things happen, shit happens. No pun intended. On that note, we want to wish everybody an amazing week and stay tuned. So make sure to hit that notification button, like, follow, subscribe, share with your friends, and show somebody this podcast while you're doing whatever you do on your little staff break.
All right, everybody. Stay safe out there, and we will join you next week for another industry topic. Stay tuned.
And have a good night. Late night with chefs. Hey!